Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's Alan Smith, and on my channel this is where I get to share all of my projects, things I'm working on with my hobby time, and all my wargaming. Alright, now as I've been promising on the channel, now that the studio is basically done, got a few small things I have to finish. The smaller ceiling tiles, a little bit of the trim, doorknobs on the doors, just the finishing touches, but overall basically the studio is complete. Lighting is in, so really excited with the finished result. It really turned out nice, but it's time to get on with things, and here's what we're doing next here on the channel. Star Wars Legion. Yes, we're doing it. I love Star Wars. I was the 12-year-old kid standing in line for tickets back in 1978. So, or 79, one of those 2 years. So here we go. I got the starter kit. This is a great kit. I'm loving it. Very high quality. Let's see, what are some of the things I can tell you about this kit? It's got everything you need, obviously. It's got your dice, it's got your measuring stick, it's got your movement gadgets. I'm not sure what they call them. The detail on the models is very good. The assembly of the models is good. Good to very good. Now, I just finished my Rebels. I've got my stormtroopers here. We're going to cut to in a minute. I'm going to show you how I'm basically painting those. But something I figured out when I was doing my airbrush, and I don't get this a lot with a lot of model kits, and that is when I started applying the primer with my airbrush. It did fleck. It wasn't wanting to lay flat. So what that means, if you're just new to the hobby, is there's a coating on the model. They must use a mold release of some kind, and it still stays on the model. So what I'm going to do with this next batch is I'm going to just get some cold, light, soapy water, let them sit in there for just a little bit, and then rinse them off and get that film off. I'm going to test it with one model to see if do I need to scrub a little bit. Will just soaking it in soapy water work to get that coating off of there so that the paint will lay nice and flat. So it ended up working out fine, but I did notice that. I want to let you guys know that if you are getting to get this kit, which I highly recommend. I'm really excited about this game. I also picked up 2 of the ATSTs I have not built yet, but that's coming up here on the channel to look forward to. And looks like a nice kit, easy to assemble. Most of it's already kind of pre-assembled. You just have to put the legs on and some of the doodads. But everything's going together smooth. I haven't really delved into the rules much, but I do have a board that my son and I, my daughter and I used to use for Warhammer 40K. That would be perfect for starting on this. I think it's a 4x4 set in a mining camp. So that's where we're going to do our first, not really a tutorial. I'm not going to get into that stuff on the channel here, at least not in the foreseeable future, guys. I just don't want to put up with all of the, you missed this, you did that, you didn't do this rule right, blah, 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 blah. So again, on this channel, I'm focusing on sharing what I'm currently working on. If it's something you're interested in, it may give you some inspiration on maybe some future projects you may want to do for your hobby time. But really the channel at this point in the game is going to be just about sharing, right? I'll give you some battle excerpts like I have been the last 2 or 3 battle excerpts I've put up for Battle Group, for American War of Independence, Rise and Fight Again, other rule systems that I'm interested in. And like I said, I want to really open it up to as I move forward here. My train, I'm going to be building, as I said before, a new train layout. We'll be running the old layout until I get the plan together for what that's going to be sometime next year. But I'm bringing that into the channel. If you don't like trains, tough, right? This is about me sharing my hobby time. So I'm multifaceted here, right? I like wargaming, I like the trains, I like board games also, I like cycling, hiking. That's all encompassed on our other channel, Exploring with the Smiths, if you like those type of activities. Some of our traveling, some of our day trips. So I have a wide variety of interests, right? So that's the way I like it. It's the spice, a little spice you sprinkle on the top of your steak or your whatever, the food that you're eating, to really make it pop and really make it really savory and good. That's the spice of life, guys. So I highly encourage you guys to stick with your hobbies, explore new things. At some point here in the future, we're definitely going to be getting into more bolt action. I have some of the figs that I've received with my Wargames Illustrated for free, well, included with my Wargames Illustrated. I hate that word, free. Nothing is free. All right. And so I'm eyeballing bolt action. I'm eyeballing, the name escapes me right now, but it's basically samurai era wargaming, skirmish fighting. That's something on my radar. I've always been enamored by the Japanese culture, so that's something that I want to do. And of course, you know, I haven't forgotten about Hail Caesar and all these things. There's kits I've built. They're just part of my collection now. But as I move forward here in this new studio, we'll be touching on these kinds of things as I just get the urge, right? Because that's the great thing about freedom. I can do what I want when I want, right? So that's where we're at. All right, so we're going to zoom in real quick here on some of the painting I've been doing for my my stormtroopers. So I'm going to go to my top-down cam and kind of show you what I've been working on here real quickly. And a little snafu I had with Darth Vader. He had a little bit of an issue here. I went with my Badger Airbrush primer, right? And I didn't want to fire up the airbrush for just one fig who needed to be primed black, so I broke out the Badger primer, which I keep in these little containers. Now you can get these on Amazon. They're cheap. I think you get like 10 of them for 10 or 15 bucks. And I transfer my glues, my paints, when they're larger quantities like this. It's a dropper bottle. It's easy to deal with. And you can see here, once it dried, it got like a gray hue as it dried, because there is some gray tones that you notice are in the black. So that was kind of disconcerting. I've got some ideas how I'm going to fix that. I think I'm going to go over it with a black wash, let that dry good, and then I'm going to go over it with a nice dry brush of black. And then I'll come back in with some gloss black. I think I'm going to do all the high spots in more of a gloss black. So I'm going to experiment with that. The jury's still out how I'm going to actually tackle this guy so he looks as good as I can get him. But great model, should be easy to do, but we ended up with the gray tinges. Now, what I think was the problem, guys, was that I opened this up when I saw that, and I noticed that there was it had kind of gooped up along the top. So I noticed on these, I hadn't put my famous trick of putting in a lead sinker. So I think that's going to solve the problem. I just don't think the paint was mixed up well enough, right? So that's something that I'll change in the future with all my shakers, right? So yeah, we're nestled in here as far as what I'm doing here in my hobby hutch, my hobby cubby, whatever you want to call it. This is kind of how I'm going to keep it for right now. I may get rid of all of these tables and custom build something that wraps around so it makes full use of all the space. I haven't really decided, and it doesn't need to be dealt with right now. So dealing with the stormtroopers here, I've experimented. I got to thinking, how do I want to do these? I don't want to go just copycat what somebody did on some other channel. Zoroaster's painting is a top notch. I highly recommend you go over to his channel. He does very well edited one-offs where he'll pick some minis. Especially he does a whole series of the Star Wars Legion figs, and he really does a spectacular job. But I wanted to do something as I buy more of these expansion kits. I wanted to get a technique down that would give me really good results and not take me weeks of meticulous painting. Kind of like what I try to do with my war game stuff, my historical war game stuff, is I really try to do tabletop standard, right? Especially if you're doing rank and file miniatures. You just, as far as I'm concerned, you can get really good results with using 5 colors, a good wash, and maybe some dry brushing and things to really get them up to a good tabletop standard. So what I did was I just took the fig, I primed them in white with White Badger primer. I get questions on that, so I better show you, because someone will put down in the comments below, hey, what do you use? This is what I use. Stenorex. It's from the Badger Airbrush company. They also make the black and the gray, as I showed you just a second ago. So what I did was I did my top coat with the Badger white. Then I came in with just my straight up black, nightshade black. Let that dry overnight, and then I've come back in. I didn't hit the gun, and I just did a dry brush with white, just straight out of the tray here. I dip it in, I go off to the side, and I just do my little dry brush, and I let that dry overnight. Okay, so the technique I've developed for these is really given a nice effect, a very unique effect. I want it to look unique. I want it to look like I painted these, right? So then what I do is I'll come back in with my Warhammer or Wargamer Regiment brush from Army Painter, right? And I will go in and I'm hitting all of the tops of the armor, all the tops of the chest, tops and parts of the leggings, not getting onto the black. And then what I ended up with, this is the leader fig, and he's done. And I think he turned out great. I really like the effect. It really gives it a nice unique texture. And of course I'm going to top coat it in a matte finish, but I'm going to show you this matte product that I bought a couple years ago, and it really doesn't dry flat. It has a slight sheen to it, which is exactly what I'm going to go for, right? I don't want it flat, but I want just a little bit of shine to the armor, just like in the movie, and same thing with Darth Vader. I want a little bit of that shine, right? And I think the darker folds of Darth Vader's cape, I'll go in with a flat and go down, so only the tops have a little bit of shine to it that gives it some depth, right? Some depth of field. I'll show you that product real quick. I bought it, like I said, when I first got my airbrush a couple years ago. You can go back and look at some of my videos. Now, it looks like on this one I did put sinkers. You can see them stuck down in there. We'll shake it up. Now this was for airbrush. It's airbrush use. You should be able to just go right out of the bottle with your airbrush. And you can see it says matte top coat. Oh, the first time I used it, it wasn't very matte. Like I said, it has a slight sheen to it. Unlike the other product I like to use is my micro flat. Now this is, as far as I'm concerned, like applying dull coat. I used the dull coat cans, the little shaker cans, for years and years and years. Right over there by the window, I had a little booth set up, which was just basically a tub on its side, and I would spray into that, right, and let the vapors go out the window, hopefully. But what I realized is, $10 a can, $10 a can, $10 a can. I would get a box of them on Amazon. That's what I did all my Flames of War stuff with. I started realizing that, hey, I can take all this money I'm blowing on aerosol cans for my primers and my top coats and invest in an airbrush. Now, if you follow me on Facebook, Alan Smith Hobby and War Games on Facebook. You're going to get a lot more updates there, guys, on what I'm up to. I just upgraded my airbrush that, well, not the airbrush, the compressor. The compressor I've used for the last 2.5 years has been working great. It is not broken. It does not have a tank. It is a tankless air compressor. Now, what happened the other day when I was down here priming is the regulator finally went. As I wanted to increase the pressure, I was using a little thicker product, and I needed more pressure. It would only go up so high, and then once I turned it to a certain point, it just went shh, and basically the regulator basically huffed. The compressor part still works. It needs a new regulator. I'm like, you know what? I should have bit the bullet and got, this is a professional grade compressor. It's got a tank. It's got the same, it's actually a similar compressor on top of the tank. That way your pressure is regulated more properly, and you also have a higher quality regulator on this unit, which is a pull type regulator. So I picked up one of those. It just came yesterday. I've got it set up next to my table. I may do a video on that at some point. And I use my Iwata Neo. So guys, don't go for the, I did the cheapo. It was like $100, $80. It came with the tankless compressor. It came with the Mastercraft airbrush, which was garbage, right? So I immediately went to the Iwata Neo. I liked the Iwata Neo because it has the two different size bowls that screw on and off, the large to the small, based on if I'm just doing a fig, if I just wanted to do this guy instead of using a brush like I did, I could have used the smaller one and just, you know, popped 1 or 2 figs, right, with a smaller bowl, which was nice, attractive to me. So you find one of the main things with the airbrushes, you're going to get the use of the tips, right? I ended up buying a couple boxes of spare tips, right? So I found that those tips are so small, you end up over time taking them off and cleaning them out. You either drop them and lose them because they're so small, or, which I've lost 2 or 3 floating around, probably gone into the ether somewhere, right? I'll never see again. Or the threads start to get, they're a little soft because it is brass, right? So it's good to have spare 0.5 tips. A little tip for you there, especially if what I'm using an airbrush for is for my priming work and my top coat work, right? And if I do a tank like I've done with my dioramas, I can do some camo patterns and things like that on, you know, on other model kits. So there's that. So that's what I did. I did my airbrush with white. I did a black wash with the Stormtroopers. And now I'm going to do the speeder bikers next. What I'm going to do with these, I'm not going to do I haven't really figured out yet. I might just go in with black, like you're supposed to with these figs. They don't have as much white. There is more black on these, you know, under their armor. But I might experiment with doing this with the black wash and coming in and just touching up with some black. I don't know, and that's the beauty of this hobby, guys. A lot of experimentation goes on here in the studio. I'm constantly tinkering and trying things to come up with more unique ways to get an effect that I'm going for on either a model kit or this, or if I'm doing a building for my train layout that, you know, needs to be painted and weathered and things. I'm constantly wanting to experiment. So I encourage you guys to do that. So that's one of the fun things of this hobby. So that's basically it. Just wanted to give you guys a quick little update here and share what I am currently working on here at the very end of July 2020. And hope everybody's enjoying the masks, right? Put on your masks. Do as the overlords say, guys. Follow the rules. They might give you a big fat ticket. Alright guys, see you next time. Ciao.